good morning and welcome to TFR TV. It's my very great pleasure to welcome David Morrish, Relationship Director of IFS University College. Today we're going to go back to basics. We're going to have a look at what trade finance really is and why not only the people that provide it but the people that use it need to understand a bit more about how it really works. Do you know your FOB from your SIF or the kitchen cleaning products or perhaps their shipping terms? But we've got David here to explain what he's been doing to improve the understanding of how all this actually plays out on the open seas. David, tell us a bit more.
Okay, thanks Clarissa. Yes, SIF, first of all, was a shipping term long before it was a cleaning product.
Excellent.
And just a bit of light relief, but essentially when you have certain shipping terms, it just helps the buyer and the seller, the importer-exporter, to identify who's doing what, who's paying for what, who's insuring the goods, who's paying for the freight. It sounds basic, but it's point one. When you first sign the contracts, if you're buying and selling, you need to know that.
But
it's
what
important.
Is SIF? Come on, tell our readers.
Okay, SIF, carriage, insurance and freight.
I thought it might be that.
It actually means that the exporter essentially is responsible for insuring the goods and shipping the goods right up to the point of docking before the buyer collects the goods.
Okay.
I say it's important. What if the goods aren't insured, if there's confusion? CIF, it tells you straight away who's responsible and who's got the goods covered.
Can you tell us a bit more about how the educational programme came together? There seems to be a dearth in understanding outside the banking sector about what really goes on. And some of this came about because you were addressing that and you've come up with a few qualifications. Can you share a bit more about how they came about and how they work?
Yes, of course. I mean, from our perspective, we have three specific qualifications. There are other things out there. There's other training out there.
Yeah.
Our particular qualifications focused on two specific areas of technical need, which are to do with letters of credit and guarantees. But our third qualification is all about just a general understanding of international trade, and whether it's our qualification or training generally. It's just so important for bankers, obviously, but for people involved in buying and selling goods, the shipping department to major exporters. They need to know what the alternatives are in terms of method of payment, as I say, what the various shipping terms are, what financing options are open to them, what risk management tools are available for foreign exchange hedging or credit insurance. There's lots to talk about, and it's a very, very broad subject, and you need to know the vocabulary. As I would always say, it's not that it's more complex than anything else, but it is different.
Yeah.
It is different, and you need to at least get to grips with the basics.
How many students are you getting in each year?
Currently, from around the world, we've got students from something like 90 countries currently around the world. Typically hopefully 6,500 this year.
All sitting the exam?
All sitting one of those three qualifications.
Yes.
And we have exam centres. Yeah, sure. Once again, we've got the general introduction to trade, and that's the Certificate of International Trade and Finance.
Right.
That gives you that broad understanding, broad overview. And then we have two, as I say, technical qualifications, the Certificate for Documentary Credit Specialists.
Yes.
People working with documentary credits as part of their day job, practitioners. Mostly, it has to be said, in financial institutions,
yes, of course.
but increasingly in big exporters. There are real benefits for major manufacturers, exporters, in having staff trained up to the same standards as banks.
That's interesting. Is that because we've had quite high levels of refusals of documents and to improve the correct presentation, you've been addressing some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. The figure that I heard 20, 30 years ago was that 60-70% of documents are turned down on first presentation because they're wrong in some way. Has that changed? Actually, no. It's still hovering around that, sometimes even higher. The beauty of getting staff trained up in exporter level is that they can produce documents at a technical level to the same standards as banks, and that means that their strike rate in terms of getting it right should be much higher. It also means that when banks come back with certain discrepancies, they can challenge, they can push back.
Yeah.
Banks don't always get it right. And it's great actually to be on firm ground and say, no, actually, you say that's wrong, it's not, check again.
So they have a better dialogue with their financial institution.
Absolutely.
Because they've got more knowledge.
Yeah, they have the knowledge and they're in a position of strength to do the job and to challenge.
Now, I tried this.
You did?
I did. My glorious failure a year ago. This was a certificate in international
trade and finance.
I was a bit mean. I got 67 out of 70, and 70 was the pass mark. You could have snuck me through.
They're not easy.
No,
They're
I
not
discovered
easy.
this.
The particular qualifications that we have, and we're not unique,
No.
but they're entirely multiple choice.
Yes.
And it sounds like it should be straightforward. You've got a choice of 1 out of 4 across the piece. Having said that, they're well written, they are challenging, they make you think, and the beauty of multiple choice is that you can cover the whole syllabus in one sitting.
It certainly did.
Yeah,
I sat there for 2 hours.
You can't question spot. You've got to do all the work.
I did, but it just wasn't enough. Oh well, I shall be back for the research.
There's always next time.
Of course. Let's move on to how your students are actually responding to sitting an exam some decades after when they would have last sat either their degree or A-levels or a major professional exam. How are they coping with this?
Again, it's a good question. You mentioned, Clarissa, that you sat CITF recently.
I did.
I went through a similar experience not too many years ago in achieving a degree, essentially on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And I'm currently working on a compliance qualification to do with trade.
We always need more compliance officers.
Absolutely, and that's just to get the technical background.
Very good.
But what can I say? It shouldn't be a barrier.
No.
People shouldn't be afraid of it.
No.
It's no different to it was when we sat those qualifications years ago. All you have to do is do the work.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, the people I talk to are probably more diligent at doing the work when they get to a certain maturity, shall I say.
I see.
They stick at it, they do the work, they understand what it means.
So they're not down the pub every night?
No,
Okay.
it's not a barrier. It really isn't a barrier.
Okay. Last but not least, could you share with my readers what these qualifications have actually done for some of the people who are going out and doing different jobs or having quite transformational effects on trade as a result of better learning, better qualifications?
In terms of, first of all, the individual development, obviously they get the qualification, they get the suffix after their name.
Yeah.
Many people use it proudly to show that
I've seen it.
So they've reached the standard, which is great. But also, again, I've spoken to a number of banks very recently with a delegation from China. The fact that individuals have to pass some of these qualifications to reach the next level of management, to actually go into management. So it's doing the job now, being professional, getting qualified, but also it just gives them that strength, that knowledge, and, as I say, the vocabulary to talk to clients in the future and, as I say, move up into management. In terms of improvement to exporting generally, and I'm a passionate believer in this, is that there are lots of companies, small, medium-sized enterprises, that don't have the knowledge, and they depend on professionals to come and discuss the issues with them. And you need to have that information to at least give them the options, steer them perhaps in the right direction, but at least open their eyes and maybe take away the fear factor. I've seen so many companies over the years where you have a discussion about somebody that's new to exporting, sometimes not as new, and where there are quite serious gaps in their knowledge. And if you don't know what the risks are, then you can't manage the risks.
That's fair enough.
And these people we get trained up act as a conduit to pass on that knowledge. Great point of reference.
On that note, I should say thank you very much, and learning points from all of this is that knowledge is power, and don't be afraid to go back to school. Thanks very much for joining TFR TV. David.
Okay, thanks, Clarissa.